Hello, I hope you're doing well today. My name is Ian Green, and I'm the musician for Music Dreams and also for Ian J. Green. And today it's my pleasure to work on another tutorial with you. I really enjoy working with students, and I've been teaching for many, many years. I've also I have the privilege of working as a music director for churches, and also I work as when needed, as an examiner for harmony and also for rudiments and piano and through the Royal Conservatory of Music. And I've worked with students across North America. It's been a pleasure to do that. And as well, too, I thoroughly enjoy working in the aspects of musical education, especially to help support students through tutorials such as this. Today we're going to be looking at Unit 11, Part 5. Now, wow, that's been going on for doing a lot of things in this tutorial series, and we've been covering a lot of great material, and I hope this information has been helpful. And we're going to be looking at something called close and open position triads and chords, and how to find them and label them. We're going to be looking through the material of the Intermediate Elementary Music Rudiments course written by Mark Sarnecki. And specifically, we're going to be looking at the lesson that is outlined on page 80 of that great book. Let's go over to the shared screen, and we'll look at this information a little bit further. So far, we've been writing chords and triads in root position and in inversions within something called close position or closed position. And this is when a triad is in close position to the other, all the notes are together within one octave. So when you play the inversions of any triad, for example, C major in root position, first inversion, or second inversion, the notes themselves are within one octave. You can see there's a maximum of an interval of a sixth in some cases. Now, something that's interesting is triads can also be written in open position, and this is where it gets a little bit more confusing somewhat, but I want to help to alleviate that confusion today. Triads can be written in open position because the notes can be spread all over the piano itself or all over this different series of ranges of notes that can be played by different instruments. So let's say I wanted to have C, E, and G. That is technically the C major triad, C, E, G, just spread out over a very large spacing of notes. Now, something that's interesting is that the C major triad in this example can be written in many ways. C, G, E. I'll go over to the piano and play these for you. C, G, E. C, G, E. C, G, E. And you can hear how the quality is the same. There's that major sound, that happy sound. And the definition or the spelling of those notes is the same as well. Now, something that's important when we want to think about inversions of intervals and finding them is that the lowest note of an inversion will always help us to decide what type of inversion we're using. And also, if we find the root of the chord, that will be the name of it. Those two things are still really helpful. But the most important thing when looking at a detail, when looking at open position chords, is you want to write the chords in a closed position to then decide on what inversion or quality we're using. But we want to write the chords in the same order. So if we're going to be writing this chord, we already know it's C major, but just in case we didn't, let's say this was a random question on one of the homework pages. We want to rewrite this chord with the lowest note still being the same. So we're going to write C, E, G. Even though these notes are all switched around, we know that those are the notes in the chord. And then the closed position chord is C major. So we know that this open position chord matches the same notes as this closed position chord. They're just written in a different order. But we know that it's a C major triad in root position because the lowest note determines the inversion of the chord. If we were to go to this one, there's an E, a C, and a G in this order. So we would rewrite it E, G, C, keeping the E the same, but putting the notes just into a closed position. By doing that now, we can see, okay, there's a gap between these two top notes, so this is a first inversion of C major. If we were to work on a couple of these questions together, first we want to rewrite each of these notes on page 80 into closed position. Let's use the treble clef for that. So we're going to keep the E the same, so we'll put the E here. We're going to put a B, and we're going to put a G sharp. So basically, we're taking the notes that might be all over the place and putting them into the combination of notes within one octave, or a closed position chord. So now we have E, G sharp, and B. I'll just rewrite that because it's a bit messy. That's the beauty of making things larger on the screen here. E, G sharp, and B. Now, we can see that this is a root position chord. So therefore, we know that the root of this open position chord is going to be E. And then if we play it, and think of the scale of E major to match to see if it's a major triad or a minor or something, E major has 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So the E major triad sounds like that. Now the notes we have in this particular chord are E, G sharp, and B. So therefore, the type of chord we have is a major because it matches with the E major scale, of which is the bottom note of this triad. Now, the original combination of notes also has an E as the lowest note, so therefore, this position is root position for both the closed position chord that we found after rewriting these notes, and it's also the same, therefore, for this chord as well, because E is the lowest note. And because E is the lowest note in the root position closed position chord, it's also the lowest note in the open position chord as well. It's just the same notes written in a different order. Let's now go to another example. Let's go to the next one. We'll do a couple of these together. So first what we're going to do is rewrite this into the treble clef just to make it easier to see what kind of spacing we've got. So we have an A, and we're going to write them in order as we see them. So A first, lowest note. Then we put the C sharp, and then the F sharp. So even though we're rewriting the order of these notes a little bit, we're now putting this combination into a closed position. Now what we want to do is, in our head, we want to think, okay, there's a gap here on the top of this chord. So therefore, the root is on the top of the chord, and the inversion, or the position, is going to be first inversion. And we know the root, if we move it down, is going to be F sharp. So now, if we play those notes, A, C sharp, F sharp, or move it down to F sharp, A, C sharp, that chord sounds minor, and it is minor. The F sharp major scale has 6 sharps in it, which includes F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and E sharp. And the F sharp major triad has F sharp, A sharp, C sharp. If we lower that note, we get to F sharp minor, which these notes are. So the order of this chord is F sharp minor in first inversion. The closed position will always match the open position chord. Let's go to one more. We have now an open position chord where we have multiple notes. So we're going to write them. First we have a D. So we'll cross that off. Then we have a G. We'll cross that off. Now, sometimes chords might have multiple notes that are copied. So if you see the same note twice, you don't have to write it twice. We can just say, we already wrote a G there, so that's part of that chord too. But putting it into a closed position means we're sometimes shrinking a large chord that's spread out over a very far bit distance into just the basic triad that the chord is based on. Now we have to write a B as the last chord in this one. So now we have D, G, B. And if we were to play this set of notes, it has a bit of a major quality to it, doesn't it? And we can also say that the gap between the bottom note to the top note helps us decide that this is a second inversion chord. So if we move the D up and then see that the root is G, we then want to think about the G major scale and what those notes are in the scale and the key signature. And we can see how G major contains one sharp, and also the notes of this chord written here are part of the G major triad. It just happens that this chord is now a G major in second inversion because there's the gap between the two chords. So this type of chord is G major in second inversion. So thank you so much for watching and for working through the tutorial together, and also for working through some of the questions together with me. I hope that this information is helpful, especially as we unpack what an open position and closed position chord is, and actually how they are essentially the same thing, the same chord, just written in a more fancy way. So when we see an open position chord in a piece or in your homework, I hope that this tutorial helps to dissect that chord, create the closed position chord, and also help to find the quality and also the inversion of that chord. If you need to watch this tutorial multiple times, sometimes I do that. I watch tutorials many times to really digest all the information that's provided. Please feel free to do so. I encourage you to do that. Thank you as well for being a supporter of this channel, and if you have a chance to either like or subscribe, and also to follow other videos and watch other content. This channel is designed as a way to help the local and the greater music community to understand and appreciate theory and musical performance in a positive way. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.